Welcome back into the backup plan. Jason and Hannah here, as always, but we're super happy. We have an amazing guest today, Peter Rosenberg. He has his pulse on the voice of hip-hop, on the New York sports fan, and now his pulse and his voice. Join us right here on the backup plan. Welcome into Mr. Peter Rosenberg. What's happening, my man? What's happening?
Our live studio audience is incredibly excited to have you here.
And I am excited as well. Happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays to you too. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we're going to get into the hip-hop. We're going to get into a lot of things, but I want to talk about you first. You're a DC guy, massive Commanders fan. You're on TV every day here in New York. And as we sit today, your Washington Commanders are in the playoffs. But they still got 2 weeks to go, and now Carson Wentz is your starting quarterback.
Yeah, we got to talk about the Commanders for a minute.
So are you confident y'all going to even make the playoffs?
Well, I really didn't feel good going into last week with that San Francisco game in front of them. I really felt bad about their chances regardless of who was at quarterback. And then, of course, all the losses happened that needed to happen. So everything stayed pat, which means now they're in with a win over Cleveland and a win over Dallas. Either that would get them in, or you beat Cleveland, lose to Dallas, and get some losses and still get in. So I actually like their chances better this week than I did last week. As far as the quarterback change goes, I love Heineke. You won't meet a Commanders fan who doesn't have love and respect and appreciation for Heineke. I can't say that I think replacing him though kills our chances. The fact is they're 0-2-1 in their last 3 games. He's done some great things this year. He's gotten them 5 wins. Love the guy. But I don't know. I don't hate that they're giving Wentz a chance here. I mean, he looked sharp in his limited time last week. And even though he can kill you with mistakes, the bottom line is his ceiling is just higher than Taylor's is. Yes, I know. Believe me, I know how much Carson Wentz is a scary player to root for. But in terms of sheer arm talent, he gives you opportunities that I just think, unfortunately, Taylor can't give you.
Well, we're going to get back to football in just a little bit because we always have so much to unpack there. But I want to talk a little bit about your career and how you've really gotten to where you are today. You're the host of a couple massively popular shows on a radio station, Hot 97. You're a member of the Michael Kay Show, another massively popular afternoon sports talk show here in the heart of New York City. You have massive success in podcasting. Oh, and then you also have some time to talk about WWE when you can. You really do it all. How did a kid from Chevy Chase, Maryland, navigate his way to where you are in your career to this day?
Well, first of all, I would caution your use of the word massively popular in anything, but
they are.
No, but let's see. How did I get there? So, Chevy Chase, Maryland is, a nice suburb of DC, and I didn't know anyone in entertainment. I knew one person. My friend's dad wrote for the Washington Post. That was about as close as I got to, any sort of journalism or broadcasting. And when I went to the University of Maryland, I ended up interning at a local radio station in DC, a big radio station, WPGC. It was like the big hip hop station. And I interned for a hip hop legend named Big Tigger, the former host of Rap City. And I was Tigger's right hand, and I learned from him and learned from the station a lot of other great people like DJ Flex and a lot of fantastic people. That's DJ Flex, by the way, from DC, not Funkmaster Flex, who I now work with in New York. I sort of grinded it out as an intern. And, just one thing led to another. And then one day, after years of pestering Hot 97, because it was always sort of the dream, I got a phone call from someone who I knew sort of through the underground hip hop world who was working in digital at Hot 97. And he said, "Hey, I heard the program director talking about you. He wants your number." I was like, okay. And it just all sort of fell into place. And then the ESPN thing came along years later. Around the same time, WWE, something else I'd been working on and just sort of banging on the door for years, just sort of happened. It's been a lot of there was a lot of knocking on doors, before this all happened, and now I'm really fortunate to be in a cool spot.
I feel like all good stories start with an internship, so I love to hear that. We all have that in common. You're so comfortable in the sports and the hip-hop space. I mean, you cover this on a daily basis, and you keep up with everything in a daily basis. What is your day in the life? How do you really keep up with all the content?
Well, I mean, it depends who you ask. I'm sure there are listeners of both shows who would say they don't think I keep up with anything. But I do the best I can. Although this week, I got to tell you, I'm off from both shows. Not keeping up that much.
It's that week. It's okay.
Yeah, listen, the same measures I think most people use. Twitter for sports stories as they're breaking. Your basic standard issue, wake up, go to ESPN.com, The Athletic, just see what's going on. At night, I have I have the NBA ticket, I have the NFL ticket. I just kind of flip around and always keep an eye on what's going on. And then with the hip hop stuff, I mean, that kind of comes up at work as we do the show, and then the things that pop up on the blogs throughout the day. But I'm not going to sit here and even lie to you guys. I'm 43 years old. How much I'm caught up in the daily drama of 23-year-olds in hip hop is probably not as much as it should be. I'm probably more in tune with kind of what's happening with the legends in hip hop and things of that nature. But I do get filled in during the morning show every week with Every Day with Ebro and Laura.
It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is a lot. I'm glad you give a shout out to Big Ticket. The Basement was one of my favorite shows when I was in college.
Oh, it was amazing.
Right? It was a great show. So you also, in addition to getting ready for the daily grind of the sports world, you work in one of the toughest media markets in the country. But let's be honest, some of the toughest fans in all of the country. How do you deal with the New York fan? Because they're calling you, and they're calling you out every day on ESPN Radio.
Listen, I when it comes to a sports conversation, it's fun. It's not challenging. It's I enjoy a good spirited fight. And I find it really funny. Sports is the one topic where everyone likes to say nothing. And that's not just me. I can look at the Twitter mentions of Stephen A. or Nick Wright, or you go down the line and everyone is getting these comments. You know nothing. What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. So if you let that get into your mind too much, you can start to doubt yourself. And then you realize that everyone listening and everyone doing sports talk is sort of similar. Grew up loving the sport, watching it, being obsessed with it, rooting for a team, rooting for players. And if you paid a lot of attention, you were really into it, you have strong intuition and takes on it. That's really all that it is. It's funny. So people will give me a hard time. Especially because I'm sitting next to Michael Kay and Don LaGreca, who are kind of two avowed experts. I mean, Michael obviously is the voice of the Yankees for 30 years. So he is seen as an absolute baseball encyclopedia, and with good reason. Don has encyclopedia-like memory when it comes to hockey, football, baseball, really. So I'm sitting next to two guys who are both really impressive with their sports acumen. So I often end up being the person that the fans, I think, relate to the most, and thus want to sort of take it out on me for some reason. Now, it also endears me, I think, to the normal part of our population. But to the people who are really angry and bitter and think they should be the ones doing it, I think I'm the most attainable person to sort of target. But they'll give me a hard time. For example, we do our pick segment, and Michael and Don love to give me a hard time because when we do our picks, they go over all these statistics they read. Well, the Buccaneers are 0-6 against the spread over their last 7 games. Blah, blah, blah. And I literally look at the picks a day before, and then I check for any major injuries, and I make my picks. I'm dominating them in the picks. Dominating. It's not really about all the extra jargon. Everyone wants to make it sound like that, and it can be great. But the truth is, are you entertaining? Are you passionate? And if you are those things, I think you can be a good host.
I think that's kind of what endears you to your listeners, right? When they see your love for the sport, they then want to match your energy. They want to match your love. And I've noticed in living in New York City and covering these local teams in New York, fan bases here, boy. The Yankees fans always think it's their year. The Mets fans always wait for the bottom to fall out. Am I right in my assessment of football fandom? Once again, Jets fans, the same. They're always waiting for the worst case scenario. Am I right or am I wrong in handicapping the fan bases here in New York?
They all have their own personality.
Yeah, but I think that's a fair comp. I think the Jets and Mets is a fair comp of always expecting failure. Yeah, I think that's probably true. And it's unfortunate because so many Jets fans are also Mets fans. And I think the Giants fan, they're not quite, no one's the Yankee fan. I mean, the Yankee fan is the most spoiled, high expectation, high demand, never happy, always cocky fan base that you could find. But I would say the Giants probably approximate them more than the Jets do, because over the last 10 years, even though the Giants now have had a long drought going back to 2016, they they won those 2 random championships out of nowhere. And as a result, they really have been a team that when it comes to Super Bowls, it's like you're not surprised to see the Giants in the mix. So I do think the fan base probably approximates that. But yeah, I mean, listen, the New York fan base is fantastic. It's very splintered, which is interesting. I mean, if you were to do sports talk radio in DC, where I'm from, it's not really a splintered fan base. With the occasional Cowboy fan who pops up and just likes to hate on the Commanders, it's really, pretty homogenous. Everyone roots for the Washington teams. In New York, everything's split, between 2 and 3 teams per sport. So it makes it a very interesting and sometimes hard to program market to do radio,
Where are these Bills fans? No Bills fans in the house ever?
No, they're there. We just always remind them that they'll like twice a year we'll get a call. Why don't you include Bills when you're talking about New York sports? And we're like, because we're talking about New York City, not
Western New York.
So I just was the problem.
Yeah,
sorry.
She's the Bills fan. I do have a question for you, right? So you talk about the Giants. We know your Commanders fandom. Of all the teams in the NFC Beast, let's be honest, this is the best division of football this year. Which team is the one where you're like, I'm just tired of seeing them. I don't want to talk about them.
It's the Eagles.
Really?
The Eagles.
Not the Cowboys?
Yeah.
I assume the Cowboys. That was me.
Well, listen, the Cowboys rivalry I really enjoy. There's such a rich history.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the best rivalry in the NFL. Like the most classic NFL rivalry there is to me is Washington and Dallas. But Washington and Philly, we don't have the same history. It's just there's just a lot of hate for the Eagles in Washington. We've had over the last 10 to 15 years, some of the most brutal losses we've had have come at the hands of the Eagles. And, I'm sure super producer extraordinaire Andrew Gunling, who's over back there with you guys, would agree, because I know he would talk down probably the Commanders in the eyes of the Eagles fan. I wonder how much us breaking up their undefeated this season.
Oh, shots fired.
Shots fired.
No, that's going to be the kind of thing you hold on to, though. That was a tough game, national TV, and we owed them one because there was a year when Michael Vick just outright destroyed us on Monday Night Football. The game was over before it started. There have been so many years when we've just been crushed by them nationally. So even though the Cowboys are the most hated team in the division because they're America's team, the team I'm sick of, and I'm sick of them being good every damn year, and it feels like it's been like that going all the way back to the beginning of Donovan McNabb's career, is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay. I was shocked.
Right.
I honestly thought the Cowboys. I did, but I understand that DC-Philly rivalry. Hey, look, Peter, hang out with us. One more break. We got to hit this. We'll see you back right after this, all right?
No doubt.
Welcome back into the Backup Plan, and we are once again joined by Peter Rosenberg, ESPN Radio, Hot 97. We talked sports in the last segment. This is why I brought you on the show. This is why I wanted to talk to you, because I got to talk to you about hip-hop. I'm a hip-hop head,
We both want to talk to you about hip-hop, okay?
Bro.
Don't sell me short here.
And we know the morning show with you and Ebro in the mornings, Hot 97, not just in New York City. It is a worldwide mover in the hip-hop space. Walk us through what's it like to be on this show that really helps move the culture forward and share it throughout the world.
I don't know, man. It's just sort of my job every day. It's sort of just become, that's the job I've had for, we're about to be in 2023.
Yeah.
I started in summer 2007. So this coming summer will be 16 years that I've been there. And it's wild because it was the place that I dreamed of being as a kid. Some people grew up dreaming of being in the league and like, wow, I can't believe I made it in the NBA for 15 years. That's kind of how I feel about this job. It was such a remote. I always said I wanted to work at Hot 97, but the idea of being from out of the market like that, and it wasn't really plausible. And the fact that now I'm so used to it is wild. But listen, I'm really proud of the show we do. We are not the sexiest or most salacious show there is. Mm-hmm. We are not the trendiest to be posted by blogs. We've never been those things. But we are a really smart, forward-thinking show that I think does really good work. I think we're really simultaneously funny and tackle serious topics, and take the music part seriously as well while having a good time with it. And I'm really happy with the space we're in. Our podcast does insane numbers across the world, like you mentioned. So it's been nice. You know, we've had some cool moments. We've done shows in Japan. We've gotten to do really cool things. We're on now in a few markets in the U.S. You know, we don't have a big. It's complicated in New York. Everyone would assume that Hot 97 is kind of like the big monolith, but it's not. We're actually a small indie company that only has a couple of radio stations, and we're up against iHeart, which has hundreds or thousands of radio stations. So I think people don't necessarily understand that. They always assume that we were sort of the big dog, but Hot's always been sort of the big station in the company. That's the only one. For many years, our sister station in LA, we had Power 106 as our sister. So we were the two stations in the company. But then the company sold. Power's now somewhere else. And it's us and WBLS. So it's a unique, I say all of that to say we're very much a local radio show. Like, yes, it's big time. It's Hot 97. We get big guests. We get some play nationally, et cetera. But ultimately, what I'm proud of is the fact that it's a really local New York radio show.
What's the craziest moment you've had since 2007 here at I-97?
I mean, listen, I've been through a lot of different crazy things. The sort of obvious one that comes up a lot, the one that like has like a section on my Wikipedia page was with Nicki Minaj at Summer Jam in 2012. And that was, you know, that was personally a crazy little period for me. But there have been lots of crazy moments. In recent years, you know, a couple years ago, famously when Kodak Black walked out of our interview, that was incredibly awkward and unexpected. There's been a lot of crazy stuff, man. I've had issues with a lot of people, more than I would expect. In the last 2 months, I've had things happen that blew up virally where a fan base of an artist hates your guts and thinks you said something really terrible, and you're like, I was just asking a question. I'm just trying to, like, I didn't even, not that deep. It can get crazy quick, and when it gets crazy, it's funny how it sort of builds. Like, a couple people mention it, you see a couple tweets, you get a text message from someone, and I remember I hit up my fiance and I'm like, I think this could be going left here. Like, and then you sort of watch it play out, and before you know it, you just go, okay, let me just stay off Twitter for the next week. And that's the only way to sort of survive it.
I mean, this day and age, there's so much social media going around, and more, it really feels like sports, music, culture are always blending together. How have you really seen those three things kind of, you know, join forces in recent years throughout your career? And have you ever had like a combination of any of the artists there that have really shocked you?
It definitely has. You know, hip hop has really moved into the spotlight with regard to sports and entertainment way more. It's hip hop has now been the #1 genre of music in the world for so long that finally, after years of resistance, you know, you see the halftime performance on Thanksgiving, what could be a rap artist. You know, all the big networks on New Year's Eve are going to have rap artists. Like, it's finally now everywhere.
The halftime show, too.
Yeah, halftime, exactly. Dr. Dre and everybody last year doing the halftime at the NFL. So it really has gone to amazing places. I'd say the craziest integration I've sort of seen of it all is probably Bad Bunny in WWE. You know, that was not one I expected, you know, for Bad Bunny to ever make an appearance in WWE, let alone become like sort of a fixture who you can basically expect to pop up. Like, we have the Royal Rumble coming up at the end of January, and like, I'll be disappointed if one of those numbers does not turn out to be Bad Bunny. You know, like, he has become that dude. I remember last year we did a pay-per-view called a premium live event, I should say, called Day One in Atlanta on New Year's Day last year. They had to cancel it this year because of scheduling conflicts, but and Migos performed and had a whole thing in ring. You know, rest in peace to Takeoff. It was the last time I saw him was at Day One. It was really cool though, like seeing people that I know from these other places, and I'm like, hey, you're in my world now, and it's pretty cool, man. sky's sort of the limit at this point if you're a hip hop artist with where you can end up and the different ways that you can find revenue streams.
Well, I agree. It was interesting. We were discussing this before we sat down with you, and it's like you see Meek Mill with Robert Kraft. I never thought we would ever see that in our life.
Crazy.
We see it regularly, right? And back to Bad Bunny and WWE. Are you even amazed at the appeal that WWE has had throughout the entertainment space, the sports space, and the longevity? You know, this what we used to watch as kids. Now, 2-3 generations are loving it, and it's beloved the world over.
No, I'm not really surprised by it. I mean, this has been now going on for so long. The level of popularity has been high. Listen, I was around for the first boom period. I was a kid in 1987 for really the first big boom with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. And it was gigantic then. Every kid in school talked about it. Everyone was pretending to be a wrestler. Then around 1998-99, the Stone Cold Steve Austin Rock Attitude Era happens. It gets even bigger. It now goes from being a thing that all kids are talking about to now it's the thing that all teenagers and early 20-somethings are talking about. So now those generations have grown up. They've all had kids who now love it. So now you have the kids who love it, and you have these multiple generations of people who are obsessed with it. It's the most basic sort of form of entertainment. And I say that not in a bad way at all, quite the opposite. It just takes athleticism and drama and performance and puts it all together. And like, you're basically, listen, I can't say every single show ever, but if you go buy a ticket to WWE, you're going to leave happy. That is not the case when you buy a ticket to see your team play. There's a good chance you're going to leave literally in a terrible mood. Like I went to the Commanders Sunday night game last week. I had to try to get out of that parking lot from that nightmare stadium, FedEx Field. I'm trying to leave after losing a heartbreaker to a divisional rival with all their fans rubbing it in our face.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's not a fun experience. Whereas like I guarantee you, if you go to San Antonio and go to the Royal Rumble, I guarantee you will leave in a good mood. So it's just a lot of the times people like to point out, it's not real, right? And it's like it's in 2022, 23, it seems so absurd to say that. It's like it's literally the equivalent to me of if I walked into a movie theater and just screamed in the middle of a quiet part, like, hey, you guys know this isn't real, right? This is not a documentary. Those are actors.
It's such a good way to say it.
It's the truth, though. It is the truth. It's entertainment.
Everyone knows what they're getting. It's a great time.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's fun. All right, so we've got a couple of questions. What is it? Which of the wrestlers right now should we be keeping our eyes on as we look to San Antonio?
Well, listen. I mean, to people who are not paying that much attention, I would say you have to know who Bianca Belair is. She's going to be a huge star for a variety of reasons. Number one, she's incredible in a ring. She's an incredible athlete. She's an incredible person. So she's a phenomenal talent in WWE. And then her husband, Montez Ford, could be the next huge male superstar in WWE. And they actually have a reality show starting about their lives on Hulu. So I'd keep an eye on Bianca Belair and Montez Ford. There's also a young guy named Austin Theory, who's an up-and-coming superstar who I think could be very, very interesting. And, I mean, right now, the person who most WWE fans are really in love with is a guy who's been around for around 10 years in WWE, Sami Zayn, a.k.a. the Honorary Uce, who's in the middle of just, like, a simultaneously hilarious, charming, and intriguing story with Roman Reigns, the biggest star in the company. So that's a quick crash course on who to look for as we head into WrestleMania season after the first of the month.
Yes, we love to hear it. And Peter, before we go, really quickly, I have a quick question for you. I want to know, looking into the new year, looking into 2023, is there a particular artist that we should keep our eyes on when it comes to the hip-hop world? I'm always trying to keep up with these kids. I don't know what to follow on TikTok or anything in the world. Like, is there anyone that you think we should really keep our eye on for this next year?
That's probably the harder ask of me. Who is it? Like, young up-comer. I'll say this. I was just saying to my fiance yesterday, a young woman she's from Jersey, Coi Leray, she's really coming on. She has like the hottest record in New York right now. It's like her current record is really popping. And the reason I think she's going to blow is everyone hated her at first. She had this, there was something about the way she danced, like little things she did annoyed people. And everyone was like, oh, Coi Leray, she sucked. And then as time went on and she put together a couple of hits, now I'm seeing people really gravitate towards her. And what that tells me, I guess that's sort of the wrestling aficionado in me. If you're able to garner both of those emotions out of people, that means you likely just have it. There's just something there. So just because I saw her shoot a video in Jersey this week and she's been killing it, I'll say watch out for Coi Leray next year.
All right, you knew who that was?
I did.
Wow.
Coi Leray is very talented. Big fan of her.
I wrote it down.
I've heard her stuff with Dreamville, so yeah. Well aware of Coi Leray. Obviously, well aware of Peter Rosenberg. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is the hardest working man in New York City, and he's on the backup plan. Peter Rosenberg, thank you so much for joining us. We have much more of the backup plan coming up after this.